All right, I want to show you the modification that I've made to this foot pedal that adds some convenient functionality that honestly should be native to the machine but is not. It's what I consider missing functionality. So this is an Everlast 160 STH. It's the entry-level model for Everlast of any of their DC-only welders that has a high-frequency start. So that's what the H is, high frequency. Its features are that it's DC only, it's dual voltage, you can operate it on 110 or 220 volts. On 220 you get the full output of 160 amps. On 110 you get about 90, a little less than 90. It's foot pedal capable, so you can control your amperage with a foot pedal. You can set your post flow, and it has a digital display. Now, when I say missing functionality, that relates to the digital display in that if you have a foot pedal plugged in, you cannot adjust your amperage using this digital display. You have to adjust it using the relative position of the knob. And in my opinion, that's dumb. There's really not much point in having a digital display if that functionality is missing, because once you press the foot pedal and you're welding, you're really not going to look at that digital display. Now, if you do, and I did while I was troubleshooting some things with this machine and with the foot pedal, if you do, you will see that the digital display updates your current welding amperage. So, I mean, that's not really all that useful, in my opinion. Most people are not going to look at that while they're welding, unless you are troubleshooting. So anyway, that missing functionality is, to me, a major inconvenience. So I didn't know that that was how it worked. It's not in the manual. However, it does happen to be on Everlast's website. It's hidden a few menus into the product page. So once you go to the product page, it's got a bunch of menus like features and whatever. There's a notes section, and the very last note in that notes section tells you that if you want to update the amperage and see it on the display, you have to unscrew the collar, remove the connector, change your amperage, put the connector back in, screw the collar back on, and again, I think that's dumb. They could have implemented the exact modification that I've made here. They could have just put it right here on the front panel for like $1 per welder and then passed it on to the consumer, you know, charged $10 extra for the machine. But that's neither here nor there. It's not included, it's not native, and so I decided to intervene. Intervention time. So this is what I've done. If you're paying attention to what the connector looks like, you'll see that there's something added, and at the end of that is a switch. So I'll show you what the inside of the connector looks like. I ordered a second connector, but I got impatient because I wanted to get proof of concept, and as soon as I thought of this, I came out and I opened up the connector and I started making all of these changes. So the inside of the connector looks like this. Once you take it all apart, there are 7 solder lugs, or 7 pins if you prefer, and pins number 6 and 7 have a solder bridge across them. What I did is I took some solder wick and I broke that connection. And what that connection does is it sends a low voltage signal across that and tells the welder that a pedal is plugged in. So once you break that solder bridge, your pedal acts exactly like the 2T torch or 2T switch on your torch. You press the pedal, you get full amperage, you let go of the pedal, you're no longer welding. Instead, I have soldered in a couple of jumpers, I have a motion control timer that controls the lights in the garage, so I gotta try to move around a little bit more, I guess. I've soldered in a couple jumpers to pins 6 and 7, and I fed those out the back of the strain relief. And then to those jumpers, I have soldered on a normally closed momentary switch. So when you're not touching the switch, it acts just like a solder bridge is there. When you press the switch, it electrically disconnects the pedal from the machine without having to physically disconnect the pedal from the machine. And I'll show you how this works. It's pretty basic. This is going to be a little bit loud, so hopefully you can hear me over the top of this cooling fan. My starting amperage is 11 to 12 amps. The lowest this machine will do is 10. It happens to be that when SSC Controls made the foot pedal, when they put it together, the starting position on the potentiometer is like 24.7K instead of 25K. I guess if I ever need that bottom 1 to 2 amps, I'll have to open the pedal and adjust that potentiometer, but I don't really weld really thin stuff, and if I did, I probably wouldn't buy this machine. Anyway, so that's why it's oscillating back and forth between 11 and 12. It's sort of like in that in-between spot on the potentiometer. If I want to update the amperage now, if I want to adjust it, I press that button, electrically disconnects the pedal, set it wherever I want it. If I want exactly 35 amps, I have exactly 35. Let go, I'm back to my starting amperage. So really not much more to it than that. It's pretty basic what I've done. Now, Everlast could have taken this 10-cent switch and put it in the panel here and just wired it to the receptacle instead of leaving it to me to modify the connector on my foot pedal. But again, you know, it is what it is. I have what I want now. The only thing is, even though it's all heat shrink tubing and I taped it down really tight with electrical tape to keep the switch from moving around, it's kind of a janky modification. I would much rather have it in the panel. And if it wasn't for the fact that my machine is pretty new, I would take it apart and I'd put it in the panel myself. If your machine doesn't have a warranty and you're confident in doing stuff like this, that's what I would recommend. But I know as soon as I open this case up, it's going to void the warranty. And one of the things about Everlast welders, or at least, in my research, people that get good ones, they really never have problems with them. They're, pretty well built. But if you do have problems with them, you're going to want that warranty. This one happens to have a 5-year warranty, and I don't want to void that like 1 month into owning the machine. I would recommend that if you're going to do this, that you wait for the new connector to arrive, and there's a couple reasons why. This, not sure if it translates on video, but it's kind of tight in here to get solder wick, or actually it'll be these 2 pins, to get a piece of solder wick across this solder bridge and get your soldering iron in there without touching any of the other solder points so that you don't start to flow that solder. That was moderately difficult. Getting a jumper soldered to that middle lug in between all of these other solder points, that was a little harder than moderately difficult. This one was very easy because it's on the outside. However, the hardest part of this whole thing was getting those jumper wires out the back of this strain relief, because between the outside diameter of this cable insulation and the inside diameter of that strain relief, there's almost no room. It was a real pain to get those jumpers fed out the back. I got it done though, and it is what it is. I did what I did. I would recommend filing a relief area that is the width of the 2 jumpers to make it much easier on yourself. It probably took me about 20 minutes to get those out the back because there's seriously no room in between the cable and the strain relief. So that's what I've done. It's pretty basic. If you have a soldering iron, you've probably done electronics projects, and this will be something that you can easily do either to your Everlast 160 STH or any other welder that operates in the same way. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.